All right. Welcome to the epilogue for the Dark Age of Aseira. We're going to start out with some roleplay right after the battle that you all just finished. Just as a reminder of recent events, it was night, and you saw something approaching very quickly, or rather detected it approaching rather quickly before it slammed into the ground around you, causing a massive shockwave that sent you all flying up into the air, where the battle took place. You all hovered in the air, propelled by the winds, on top of some rocks that were also floating in the middle of a giant sandstorm. Your foe was a giant... Your foe was a giant platinum dragon, who partway through the fight was revealed to be controlled by some chains and shackles. You managed to free this dragon, and after they fled, they took with them the army of dragons that had been pestering at you throughout the fight. The storm dispersed, and you are now all back on the ground. Safe, for the most part. Some of you needed a little healing here and there, some of you are battered and bruised, but miraculously, you're all alive. It's not long after you land on the ground and begin to gather your wits that the sun appears on the horizon. This may be the first time that any of you have seen it before. What do you do?
Is it super bright, or is it like just rising?
Just barely peeking over the edge of the horizon.
Juniper is staring in awe, like, what is this other beast that we have to fight? And then he's like pointing at it and brandishing his rapier, like, oh god, look, there's another one. And actually, whoever's right next to him, I think it was Anva who was next to him at the end of that fight.
I was next to Garfield.
Oh wait, no, I actually moved. I'm next to Aline, I think, during the fight. Yeah. You would hear him like saying in his head, like, guys, there seems to be another thing.
What is it? What could that possibly be?
I don't know. It reminds me of my spirit.
It looks like a giant ball of fire.
It burns.
Does it burn? Are you burning?
Yes, yes, a little bit. It hurts quite a lot.
It does hurt Eileen's eyes a great deal.
It's adjusting. But I don't think I like it.
But it's distant.
Out of character, guys. It is just rising. It's not that bright yet.
Rising suns are very bright.
This is people who have never been outside ever.
Also, sunlight sensitivity is a mechanical thing.
I also have sunlight sensitivity.
Ruach is starting to stand up a little bit straighter in sort of admiration.
Eileen just sits, just gazes at it pensively.
Dario kind of just walks over and also just kind of stares in awe at the horizon. And he says, wow, I've only seen the sun in just visions, but it's incredible firsthand.
Eli tilts his head at that statement.
Eli?
Yes?
Wrong character.
Yeah.
Not Eli.
Yeah, so fun fact, this is an Aseira week.
Oh, sorry, Juniper. Juniper tilts his head at that statement. Sorry. I was like, yeah, no, that's my character. What do you mean? Sorry.
Womp.
Alright.
Time moves strangely in his here.
Giving me shit for not writing things? Come on.
Excuse me. At least I finished my epilogue like years ago.
A slip of the tongue. I actually will summon my spirit to see this with me.
Okay.
Gorgon probably just stands there looking, and then looking around to make sure nothing is sneaking up on us.
Perception check, please.
Oh no.
Still time for a natural one.
Let's see, where the fuck is my perception? There it is. And do I have advantage on this? I think I do. 12.
You are understandably a bit distracted right now by the massive amount of light compared to what you're used to around here. Especially, glaring off the sand. And these distances involved are much greater than you're used to looking over as well. It's hard to keep an eye out at the moment, but you do your best.
Don't like it up here. It's too damn bright.
As the sun does get brighter, Juniper's going to kind of like try to hide away from it. Cause it's scary.
There are dunes in the areas you guys could hide in the shadows of.
I'll try to do that. Stumblingly. Squinting me little eyes shut.
Don't be afraid.
Juniper like fades into darkness.
This is a good pain.
Well,
I welcome it.
it's the warmth of life.
Can we go
Always
back
been so
inside
far
now?
away.
Please.
Man, you sound like me as a kid.
After saying that, yeah, Eileen is quietly turns and walks back the way we came.
All right.
I'll meet you guys there.
As soon as Juniper sees someone like heading back, Juniper's just gonna be like, "Yep, peace." Just like run back into the darkness.
Are you going to be able to see them going back? Labarna certainly can't. He's got his little eyes shut. And it's very bright.
Oh, true.
Coming, Laberna.
There's a rock nearby. I will go sit on it and experience the day.
After walking a bit, Eileen pauses and just turns back. Job well done. Keeps going.
Anva will take a quick glance around in case of any other nearby aberrations, and her flame-consumed sword will shrink down into the shape of a song blossom and then vanish in her palm as she turns around and walks towards the cave.
Okay. You don't see anything nearby. Nothing that, outside of your companions. So you make your way to the cave. I assume then that everyone else eventually makes their way back inside after
I believe so.
some of you continuing to watch the day. Okay. And so at this point, each of you goes your own separate ways. Some of you were unsure if you would survive what you just encountered and had no idea what to do next, but get the feeling that times are changing now and you've got a whole new life ahead of you, so to speak. Maybe not a whole new lifetime, but it'll definitely be different. And so now we're going to start describing what each of your characters did for the rest of their lives. We'll go one by one. And I figure we've got everybody in a circle here on this map already. So let's just start with Deirdre, and we'll go clockwise from there.
Yo. Deirdre would help escort civilians up to the surface for probably a good couple years, however much time is required to get some civilization started up top. And then he would find a nice little mountainside to settle on and slowly build a tower as he studies the arcane.
Very
That
nice.
was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I believe there's a bit more that you had written down. Did you want to go over that as well, or did you want that to be more?
I was gonna leave that for later.
Okay, fair enough. Eileen, then.
Ooh.
All right. Well, I've only really got the one bit, so I'm not going to have much for later. But I guess I will give you the rest of Eileen's story. And I am fully going to be reading right now, so this is not going to be too confrontational. Eileen the Hunter returned beneath the surface after the expedition and confrontation with Bahamut. The life she knew and work she had cut her teeth on was that of the dark. For countless years, she had upheld the balance below, cutting down the horrors of the dark and weird lights alike. So returning below was not done out of ease, but a sense of being duty-bound to that lifestyle and line of defense. Eileen eventually found that she could not escape the changes that her job above the surface with Bahamut brought to her image. Too many people knew her likeness and her legend, and she could no longer work in the shadows like she used to. What's more, a newfound vigor took hold in the sanctuaries to push into this new world above. Keeping the balance against fellow lights became less of a need. It seemed that those individuals who may have turned previously had found a new purpose above. With quiet resignation, Eileen returned to the surface once again. Her very specific set of skills led her to participate in strike team exhibitions, always providing relief to the group she joined due to her very impressive reputation. They would be safe with her blade in their ranks. And with the advent of firearms, after years, Eileen took a pistol in her offhand, allowing her to become an even more potent threat on the battlefield. This new fighting style saw her viciously overwhelm opponents, staggering them with lead to create fatal openings for the Blade of Mercy to put them to rest. So I've gone full Bloodborne, is what is not so subtly.
Absolutely brilliant.
It fell
We
into
love
place
it.
so beautifully. Despite being a loner, Eileen took a small amount of pupils in these remaining years, after being impressed by their performance when out in the field. These relationships were not intimate, but her pupils would all agree that she was a perfect fit for the quiet, aging mentor role. They were Eileen's blades, and would earn their own reverence and notoriety among the strike teams in the passing years. Eileen was never going to settle down. She knew that from the moment she swore into her line of work years upon years ago. She was an aging outdoor cat, fated to find a place to die in the wild rather than wither away indoors. With an elite team, Eileen fought with an eldritch abomination that had followed the scent of civilization to the surface. After a long fight, a malformed, serrated maw had burst from its bestial form and caught Eileen around the torso. While her mask filled with blood, her body was trained enough to shoot out the horror's largest eye before severing the warped appendage that held her with a burst of radiant light, killing it immediately. She knew it was her time. Her team was aghast, but she gently told those who remained in fighting shape to prioritize the wounded. "Send help later," she said. When her party returned, they found only her blade and pistol sitting among traces of blood on the rock where Eileen last sat. End scene.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
That's very nice.
That was great, yeah.
Oh, I thought I was phoning it
Perfectly
in,
with the
so
music in the
thank you.
background.
The music helped a lot. I'm really glad that music was going, because otherwise I would have felt not nearly as good about it. So, thank you.
Piano makes everything better. This is a fact. All right, Juniper, you're up.
All right, I also am gonna be reading, so keep that in mind. I mess up words when I read, so
You
maybe it
got
won't
this.
work out too bad. Juniper's world has grown immensely. The simple settlements below were no match for the fierce lands above. After the battle, Juniper explored on his own, taking in the sights. However, as daylight bloomed, Juniper became frightened. The bright light caused his vision to blur, almost blinding him. Frightened, he ran back into the caves he was so fond of before. Juniper learned that this daylight occurred after every moon, to his dismay. He thought about staying in the caves, as did many others who reflected his concern. However, the caves were even more dangerous, and there were resources outside yet to be discovered. Juniper thought to himself and chatted with his now wife, Talia. Talia did not have the same pain Juniper had when walking in the sunlight, so Juniper recognized that he and people like him were at a disadvantage. Still, even those not like him rejected the idea of living out in the open with no walls to protect them. This gave Juniper an idea. What if he could make a settlement, half shrouded in darkness, half in light, but with protective walls for the people? It was such a weird idea, but it might just work. Juniper set off with Talia and a number of his students on a mission to find the perfect place to settle. On the way, the group discovered strange edible and inedible plants, beasts with fur, and miniature insects. It was a fascinating journey that eventually went uphill, literally. Juniper and his group found themselves climbing one of the larger mountains of what they would discover to be a mountain range. At a high enough altitude, there was a plateau connecting the large mountain with another. At that plateau, the grass was green, the air was crisp, and there was a large hole in the side of the larger mountain. Investigating, Juniper recognized it as the start of a cave system. This excited Juniper. He set off back to the settlement, informing people of a place they could call home. He packed up those willing to go and led the people. Luckily, since the people did not recognize the day and night cycles yet, it was easy for them to travel at night and sleep at day. After a 2-week-long journey and a couple of unfortunate casualties, they came upon the plateau once more. The people thought and considered this a good place as any to build their new settlement. Juniper was delighted. Juniper named the mountain Mount Castor, named after the beans his wife would grind into a powder to create a poison for their jobs. The city would later be named Vespertine, meaning to rise in the evening. It was half built in the plains and half in the mountain. As it expanded, other mountains in the range would be carved and their plateaus would be used for farmland. By the end of Juniper's lifetime, he would witness a multi-level city thriving in the shell of Mount Castor, living both in shadow and in the burning sun. Juniper never had a last name, but as the city he helped build began to settle, he assumed he must take one. Juniper Wolfsbane, first of his name, would go on to father a family of skilled assassins, a family that consisted of blood and blade, one that turned away no foundling, no orphan, no criminal. This family ended up leading the city of Vespertine for as many generations as they would last. A family one could be inherited into, this did not upset most of the settlers. They protected them, so why shouldn't they be happy? Juniper had 3 wives in his lifetime. Human Talia Wolfsbane, Drow Vormira Wolfsbane, and a half-orc named Rhea, a native to the surface. He fathered 4 half-elf, 6 drow, and 2 half-orc children, all of which were as skilled as their parents. Juniper still hosted his assassin school, though most graduates ended up joining his family. Some older citizens would call his graduates lights, since they protected the city under Juniper's orders. However, as time grew, the old ways faded and a new way began. A single magic school emerged from the city of Vespertine, though Juniper did not mind. It reminded him of Wrath, although a little less creepy. The School of Graviturgy welcomed new immigrants into the city. Guns were later invented, but Juniper always preferred the blade. Juniper would go on to protect the city he called home, travel to see his old friends and help them with their own journeys, and live in the moment every day. Surprisingly, it was not in battle that Juniper passed. He passed in his home in the arms of his wife Rhea, who wept tears for the first time in her life. He passed his rapier on to his great-granddaughter, Pyrrha, a half-elf, who had mastered the blade better than all of her blood relatives. He left the school and the title as head of the Wolfsbane family to her. With a warm smile, Juniper closed his eyes for the last time. As he followed death into the afterlife, he recognized a familiar face. Just like old times, Juniper attempted to pickpocket death, only to get a tisk-tisk from his old friend Wrath.
Oh, that
Excellent.
was awesome.
Very good, very good.
Pretty good. Full
good.
circle right there.
Lots of assassins. Perfect.
Yeah, so many assassins,
So
all the
many.
assassins.
Just like
Assassins
in
everywhere.
abundance.
Listen, now like basically every assassin you'll see now is they're just gonna be like his kids. They're just all his kids.
Is it like Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny in Pokemon?
Of course. They're just
Excellent.
You're like, I need to hire an assassin. Which do I choose? Well, they're all the fucking same, so what does it matter?
Hmm.
They're literally all related.
All right. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Labarna is up next, and you sent me an audio file. Would you like me to play that now, or do you want that at some point during your...
Yes, please. I don't have anything more for it.
Okay. I will go ahead and play it now. So this will be playing through Foundry. If you've got Foundry music and stuff muted, that would be a good time to not, because I'm just going to play it as if it's a music file.
Give us one.
It's not muted, but it's not playing.
You don't get music?
Nope, I never do.
Oh boy.
F5, buddy.
You want to just share that in the channel, and then anyone
I'll
who
share it in the
doesn't
chat.
get...
Let me just double check. Yeah, it's not muted in any way.
I don't think he's playing it right now.
I'm not. No, I just
No,
killed the music.
I haven't heard music either. I haven't heard
Oh.
music this entire time. Or for most of our sessions.
Weird.
It's real finicky for me. I usually have to like refresh, but it gets there eventually.
All right.
I'm ready to play or click play when you guys say.
Okay.
Man, you guys are making me feel like I should have read the whole story.
we can come back around if you want afterwards.
Nah.
All right. So I'm gonna start that up on 3. 1, 2, 3.
In the deep crevices of Aseira, there was a town called Clahorn, which fell in the later part of the Age of Depths into orgiastic excess. It had been known for its fighting pits in the years preceding this, for the swarthy men and women, lights among them, who for food and drink and glory tested their might against one another, and, on occasion, against beasts dragged up from below. Chief among these fighters was Labarna, who was a dwarf of the dour blood, who bore in his hairy fist a whip, lined with chitin-bred razor and tipped with a leering pygmy goblin's skull. Let it be known, whatever came after, that Labarna's whip slew the tyrant of death, who in turn snuffed the souls of countless good men. In the ring, in the dark, Labarna was champion. And as, slowly, the folk of Clahorn realized that none who lived could best Labarna, they began to give him worship. His fighting and bloodshed became a thing of ritual, for knowing that all turned against him were destined for a bloody end, the waste and worthless of Clahorn were given to Labarna in tribute. Men made spectacles of meat and bone, for Labarna's whip was merciless as the dark. Knowing none could stand before him, none above and none below, Labarna became greedier still, for he heard in the uttered dreams of wise women remembrances of ancestral myth, the promise of a bright and terrible tyrant who loomed over the world above. Labarna coveted the flesh of God. He gathered his people about him, and sent them to the writhing corners of Aseira, into the bosom of the danger below, and on their life bring him the squealing demons and monstrous bug-eyed horrors who foolishly thought themselves more savage than Labarna. And he took these things, brought bound and living before him, and rent them, and ate them, and scattered their strange viscera to his people, and through this communion was Labarna's flesh changed into shapes unknown to sane folk. So did the folk of Clahorn change, though to lesser degrees, being of altogether flimsier stock. Not all survived the changing, and gave themselves after death to their neighbors. So came the day, at last, when the greatest lights surged to the skin of Aseira, where God above lay waiting. But there, at last, was Labarna foiled, for the flesh of God slipped from his grasp. And so, silent, Labarna returned to the depths, to Clahorn which was lost to the ways of normal folk. He stood before his people, who in turn sat waiting for the revelation of godhood, which Labarna had sworn they would have. "My children," said Labarna, "I have seen the danger above, and it is mightier than the danger below. Yet I have also seen a truth hidden from me before this, and know now that a hard thing is needed, that the godhood I sought is not to be so easily found. My children, I give my flesh to you, that you will go through the world and devour it whole in my name. And so long as you thirst, so long as you bite, so long as you snap and snarl and give glory to Labarna, I will live forever through you." And he opened his maw, which had no teeth, but row upon row of fleshy, twisting tendrils, and tore into his own self, and writhed in a mass of undulating flesh, and burst and rent his own self upon the people. And the people at once took Labarna, and ate him, as they always had the things Labarna gave them, and as they ate, the people began to change further. Those who ate his eyes began to see in darker shades, began to pass into shadow, became things seen in the night and in terror. Those who ate his tongue and throat began to speak, as one voice at the beginning, but soon divergent into a chorus of bickering tyrants, a choir to preach the words of Labarna in every subversive way. Those who ate his bones bore the greatest of his gifts, and changed into shapes full of silent and empty loathing. And when all was said and done, there remained alone the pulsing brain of Labarna, choked with eyes and with tendrils, and as the people watched, the brain turned to stone, and then to dust, and an ill wind came and blew it into the crevices and into the twisting veins of Aseira, into the dark and up above where the moon rose over and over above strange plains, where that wind still carries disease and the gifts and the hunger of Labarna, to this very day and forevermore.
So, I
Whoa.
love it.
Very good.
Also, what the fuck?
What the? Yeah.
Like,
Princess Eye.
it's amazing.
Jesus
Also,
Christ.
what the fuck?
I'm glad.
Damn,
to
son.
Holy shit.
Excuse
Goddamn.
me, sir.
Not
Thanks,
a part
I
of
love
me
it.
doesn't like that, but also, what the fuck?
The proper reaction, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I hope this is the reaction you were hoping on getting.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes me very
Good,
happy.
good.
Thanks, everybody. It's very important no one destroys my character as part of their backstory. I need to release evil into the world.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I need to let my people consume me.
Yeah, I need to eat myself.
Thank you very much, Taylor. That was excellent.
That was
You're
extraordinarily well written, but also what?
Thank you
Absolutely
very much.
amazing. Also, what?
Delightfully poetic. That's that. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that was amazing. Also, fuck you.
All right.
The best version.
Ruach, now that you're on your back foot from that one, you're up.
Yeah, right? How do I follow that? All right. So, this is a summation of the final acts of Lord Keeper Ruach, the founder of the Silent Voice. In the decades following the precipitation of the danger above, the Silent Voice began to tell a number of stories, told herein. As well, the members continued to experiment with and develop the druidic and creative magics that were so vital to ensuring the survival of the surfacing lights, deepening the understanding of resuscitative rituals, developing finer control over the great power into which Ruach and eventually others could tap, and codifying right behavior in the use of magic, both manipulative and destructive. From time to time, the hermit light Deirdre, famed in tales but unknowable to any but the most devoted explorer, calls out to Ruach to share new, arcane, and natural formulae. The role of the silent voice adapts through time, originally functioning as a way to warn civilizations about the dangers that lurk beyond the circle of firelight or past the furthest tunnel. Their role in the Age of the Surface is no longer so defensive. Stories are still told of the danger above, of the creeping dangers on the edge of reality, and the evils that can destroy a village if they are not found and controlled or destroyed. But they are not so often told until they're often not told until the deep of night, when listeners a century or more ago might have sworn to see apparitions during the tales of a certain timeless light. Tales in this modern era are of great men and women, committing great and virtuous acts, struggling against the evil that lurks in the shadow of every person's psyche. The darkness within is neither denied nor put to shame, but merely given its fair accounting. Great power is to be found in such indulgences, but it comes at a price which cannot be avoided. Ruach herself traveled between villages and outposts, continuing on as she had before, and training occasional apprentices in the tradition of the silent voice. Only a few people in a given area will ever know of the formal organization, with those that do generally being the highest-ranking members of such government as exists, and the most powerful druids and bards. Over time, the requirements of induction into this society will become lower, but it would never be made intentionally public, or the knowledge of the public. Wizards, when they come to be, will have a communication with the silent voice, and certain archmagi may be invited to join, but it will remain a secret entity. And I can also tell the story of the danger below as it's recounted herein, or that can be the end.
No, I think that would be nice as an example of some of the storytelling of Silent Voice.
So, a story that might be told years on by some member of the Silent Voice late into the night. Once, long, long ago, before children were born into the sky, and in a time when no battlement guarded against intruders, 7 of the great lights of history embarked on a mundane mission to transfer goods between 2 settlements. In those days, nobody but the lights dared to stray far beyond their settlement. Juniper, the first assassin, Eileen, the hidden crow, Dario, the golden traveler, Laberna, the scourge, Wrath, the bloodless, Anva, the avenging sun, and Gorfiend, the lord below, set out with Ruach, the vigilant flame, from Galrun to Falarion. Defeating monsters hidden within the stones all around, they arrived after days of travel, exhausted but undiminished in power. Upon their arrival, they found a settlement devastated by necromantic magic and replete with the crawling undead and with horrors indescribable. The brave lights fought off the darkness and cleansed Falarion of the evil presence with whip and flaming fist, but without great peril to themselves. Upon investigation, they discovered a hidden temple to some long-forgotten being and were nearly destroyed by the latent power within. Recovering their senses, they returned to Galrun bearing the ill tidings and a message of hope. The settlement at Falarion has been undone, but the threat is destroyed. We can rebuild and repopulate, and the next time this power attempts to strike us down, we will be prepared.
Nice.
Very nice, thank you. All right, next up would be Gorfiend. Tell us about Gorfine's life.
Oh shit. So Gorfine for the rest of his days would take this last battle with the dragon into account and be like, well, crap. I don't think I can actually deal with everything alone. I don't think things might be nicer up here, but we still need things below. So he would organize teams to keep delving down into the dark. Probably staying at a way station beneath the town, or close to the entrance of the tunnel, more often than not. And take anyone just continue the work of the lights down below to keep mining for V or fighting off any demons that decide to stray up, and at the same time continuing to delve down, and because he just can't get enough demon killing, so never gonna give that up until he eventually ends up founding multiple orders. And they all jokingly refer to him as the Lord below, since he's beneath the surface more often than he is above, once there's a real settlement up here. And he manages all the supply lines to various way stations below, where all the miners can bring up their hauls, until one day he's old. I'm like, I'm not gonna die peacefully in my sleep. And packs a bag and decides to set off on one last journey down below. And he fights hordes of demons until his final breath. They finally kill him. But Mara is there waiting for him. She sees his drive to finish his mission to keep purifying the world below, to make it safe, and makes a deal with him to if he would submit his soul to her, she will let him keep fighting until he can cleanse the evil below. And he says yes, and just keeps fighting, reveling in the demon gore that he can until he's probably still down there.
Some say he's still down there to this day.
Yeah, sorry.
Awesome.
Thank you, very good.
That was great.
That's a lot of demon core.
Good shit.
Oh yeah,
Gorfine the Doomslayer.
hell
He's
yeah.
a little bit of a gore fiend, I suppose.
Yes.
Oh my
That was
goodness.
the idea.
Someone does like a deep dive expedition. They're like, why the fuck is there metal playing down here?
Yeah.
Are these shotgun shells?
they're just walking down there like, oh my god, how
Rip and tear.
why are there so many dead demons here?
Just keeps going lower and lower and lower. People would probably wonder why they see so many claw marks on these tunnels as they keep going. Surprise, they're Gorfiend.
Just end.
Black Warrior needs health badly.
Who needs health? I'm already dead.
Oh, that's original Doom. Never mind.
I don't know.
Yeah, no. Just memeing.
Yeah.
All right. Very good, Gorfine. Thank you. Up next would be Anva. Tell us about the end of Anva's life.
Reading time. Following the battle against the Neolithid, Anva started to slowly regain her memories one by one, in short flashes, usually through her dreams or by seeing a powerful trigger that would draw her to recall something new. By the time the party ventured to the surface, the only memory she would have regained, was of a field of song flowers. Then in the distance, a burst of flame and a piercing scream. She would focus on this memory and eventually use it to gain more control over her sacred flame, and in battle could create song flowers and petals to attack foes, instead of the rougher explosions of flame and power that she had been using in the past. In the years following the first expedition to the surface, Anva would become curious about the potential of more aberrations on the surface after seeing the ones appear during the battle against Bahamut. She would join parties traveling to explore the surface from time to time, but would be unable to find a common thread between aberration appearances either above or below the surface. After about 7 years of this, she would slowly begin to stop exploring above and instead focus on below. Anva eventually settled in the deepest sanctuary and lived in the outskirts, keeping watch over her little town and protecting it. Villagers would occasionally report seeing various small monsters approach the entrance and then vaporize as a small field of burning songflowers spread across the ground at their feet. In this time, she would gain 2 followers, but not be bothered to learn their names or personalities. To her, they weren't followers, they were closer to observers, although she would occasionally entertain their questions. Rarely, she would still go out on a hunt on her own, but for the most part, she would only venture far if she heard a reliable rumor or if aberrations themselves had been spotted. Things would remain this way for 42 years, with Anva very slowly regaining more and more of her forgotten memories, until one day she vanished. A few weeks later, a note addressed to Ruach would be delivered for her record keeping. Ruach, I've remembered something important and can't write for too long. I can feel it. There is a great danger below, and I'm compelled to go and confront it. I remember what happened to my sanctuary. It was a peaceful place. We mined and enjoyed a small field of song for harvesting. I was out among the plants when I heard the fire and a scream. Nothing was wrong at first, and then suddenly the aberrations were all around us, as though they tricked our mind into not seeing them approach. Then darkness. I can feel something happening again. I know they're out there plotting, and I can't let that happen to another sanctuary. If I am able to return, this threat will have been prevented, but there will be others. And if I do return, it won't be as myself. I'll have remembered the last pieces of who I was before all of this. Stay vigilant of the danger that surrounds us. Anva. At this point, Anva would never be seen again, and it remains unknown whether she survived her last journey into the depths.
Nice.
Very nice. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Next is
You
Dario.
should text Ruach that note.
Yeah, so Dario, much like Deirdre, spent his first couple years trying to get some sort of semblance of settlement or society up on the surface and helping escort the sanctuaries up there. And once he was satisfied with the settlements that were on the surface, he would then make it his life's goal to travel the world and try and chart out and create a world map. And eventually along the way, he would pick up a few followers and disciples, and a select few of these disciples he would teach the ways of channeling draconic magic into their ki. And his most trusted disciple, he would task with creating a monastery to hold all of his maps, and as he traveled the world, he would stop back in the monastery and teach the disciples there and store his maps there. And eventually, as he died of old age, his body was entombed in the monastery, and the monastery would go on to watch over the entire world as an all-encompassing sky known as the Platinum Sky.
Very nice as well. Thank you.
Dragon Monks is amazing.
Yee.
Hell yeah.
All right. Did we want to return to Deirdre for any other thoughts you had? You mentioned earlier that you might have a few others.
All right, I'll read the thing. Deirdre Radogast continued his work with the lights in order to usher humanity to the surface, arriving where he was needed to shepherd forth settlers. Deirdre would eventually settle nearby the city of Vespertine, honing his arcane abilities and conducting research in a wizard's tower off to the side of the city. He documented his research in journals which would periodically make their way to Ruach's desk. These writings would pave the way for a new school of the arcane in Vespertine under the watchful eye of Juniper. Deirdre became a recluse in the later half of his life. His tower sealed and solicitations rebuffed. Eventually, his tower seemed to vanish from sight entirely, or perhaps it just became harder to notice. Citizens would still catch glimpses of the blue and gold tower peaks in the corners of their vision, but would turn to discover nothing was there. Other citizens would occasionally see a hooded figure with a slight glow moving through the streets, but the figure would have disappeared as they rounded the corner. Ruach would eventually compile Deirdre's research into a large tome that was regarded as the basis for arcane learning, referred to as Radogast's Discourse on the Rudiments of Magic. Eventually, the journals ceased appearing on Ruach's desk, and the mages were left to discover the nature of arcane magic without Deirdre's guidance. No one knows whether Deirdre passed quietly in his tower, or simply disappeared altogether. It was clear, however, that the enchantment on the tower remained in place, as none could enter, much less keep focus on it. And a mysterious figure was still seen every few months on nights where the moon was absent. That is what I have.
Very nice.
Nice.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from among you before I go into some thoughts of my own here?
You look like Among Us.
Kind of sus.
Tremendous sound effect work.
Back, bad. No. All right. So I'll just describe a little bit of detail on sort of the transition of the ages here. Although a lot more information will be coming once I actually, have more written down. But at this point, it is certain that both arcane magic and technology have advanced quite a lot as humanity finds a foothold on the surface. Things such as firearms become fairly commonplace, as do some rudimentary vehicles, all of which the firearms and vehicles would be powered by V. So the mining operations and travels below ground are still very necessary to maintain the life on the surface, or at least the most convenient form of it. Firearms would, again, provide a form of offense and defense for many folk who would be unable to train themselves in magic or the ways of the sword nearly as well as adventurers of the past, and gave humanity much more power to expand among the surface and really solidify these various settlements, which, now that there was extra stability, they would grow into cities and then countries. And of course, with that comes conflict, but we'll get to that eventually. Additionally, as I said, arcane magic has advanced significantly, and various schools of magic have cropped up all over the place, one of which in Vespertine, as was mentioned earlier. And that's sort of the biggest improvements to the ways of life of the people and their defenses, at least. And yes, for future one-shots in these ages as we go forward, things like firearms and full magic casting classes will be available. Finally.
Interesting.
Imagine casting 6th level spells.
Exactly.
Why do that when you could just cast 7th level
Scorching Rays?
Yeah, Scorching Ray.
So
that was the finer control that I mentioned.
So as time went forward, several of you have started various organizations. Eileen started a group that began to call themselves just the Blades, shortened from Eileen's Blades, who sought to cut down greed and evil of any powerful sort, anyone that tried to amass too much power for themselves. Ruach, as mentioned, started the Silent Voice, an organization that kept knowledge, sought knowledge, and stayed in the shadows, trying to find the best ways to use the knowledge that they had. Yes, incoming Bethesda lawsuit, indeed. Labarna's people, I'm gonna leave some of that secret for now, but that will be a thing going forward, which is very exciting.
From the psychos from Borderlands.
Yeah, no, you can't see me, but I'm just rubbing my hands together here behind my screen, like, ooh, yes, lots of plot coming from this. Labarna's Healing Church, indeed. That is correct.
Full Bloodborne.
I apologize. I can't remember right this moment what the school Juniper started was. Can you remind me of that?
That's a good question.
The school is putting knives in people's soft parts.
I honestly forget the name of the school. It's not on my channel. Hold on, let me look at myself.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's very difficult to find out.
Just a family of skilled assassins. So you're not starting a school so much as a family? I'm sorry, I must have misheard.
Oh, you mean like from my epilogue or whatever?
Yes.
So what I was kind of going for was he basically made like the first mafia family.
Right. Okay. So quote unquote family. Yes.
Yeah.
That's family with a capital F.
So the Wolfsbane quote unquote family.
Yes, the Wolfsbane quote unquote family. Exactly. Okay. And that starts in Vespertine. We'll see where that goes from here.
I'm excited to see where it goes. Ooh.
Gorfine started an order of blood hunters, specifically of the lichen variety. Anva's didn't necessarily start something intentionally so much as her followers began creating multiple churches, actually, following her ideals. And they don't always get along either, interestingly enough, as they pursued different elements of Anva's personality. Basically, the protect and the attack.
I was going for one church, just very split.
Very split sects, sort of, yes.
Yeah.
We'll call it
Sunni and Shiite.
Or Shia, yeah.
Obviously, we've got the Platinum Sky, the Order of Monks started by Dario. And Deirdre didn't necessarily start an organization, but he's basically the father of modern magic in general, so that's pretty big itself. These will all be, major elements of the world going forward, unless they get terminated in one way or another in future ages. We'll see. You never know what could happen depending on the plot.
One asshole out of the
You never know if Labarna's Healing Church just eats another organization. It just consumes it entirely.
You ever just.
Exactly. So yeah, there will be now, humanity is much more divided than it was previously. Sort of out of necessity previously, humanity was very united, just in the purpose of survival. But now that they've got more of a foothold and more power and just more arrogance, really, there's more division and conflict. Wars will happen and such. That will, of course, be a thing in any history of any world, but no longer one big happy society anymore. Trying to think of other details I had thought of here. Let me double check my notes real quick here, because I am super prepared and professional.
Professionalism is what we need in this game that we play.
I mean, you sound better than I did.
Yes, so one thing that we will deal with in the coming age, as just a brief overview, is within a century or so, after many of you would have passed, nature itself starts to become a problem for humanity. There's many large storms. The waters seem to almost rush up and attack humanity through tsunamis. There are earthquakes. And just all manner of natural disasters that seemingly start to crop up out of nowhere in a pattern. While they were very rare when humanity first made its way to the surface, they're very frequent now and very devastating.
God damn it.
And so you all have a new task to work on in a future age. as you discover the nature of these disasters, what is causing them, and hopefully how to fix them. Another detail as well is that Ruach's organization, through the pursuit of knowledge, has deciphered the cosmology of the world. Not in its entirety, but significantly better than the just, I sacrifice blood, I make magic, and oh boy, it's the dark and the light and the earth.
That sure is a lot of magic.
Oh boy, that sure is a lot of magic. Just the world is much more knowledgeable on that front. So by the time you get into the next one-shots, that knowledge will be available, as it has been provided by Ruach's organization.
Ooh. Hard support, even in the metagame.
Yes, indeed. Any other questions people have about the progress of time here?
Not a question, but just like a comment on what you were saying about how there's going to be like a lot more war and stuff. I would imagine that the Platinum Sky would kind of act as like a keeper of peace between nations, like world peace.
A sort of United Nations, if you will.
Yeah, kind
of. Some kind of an organization that could
unite.
Well, not being a government.
Yes. Maybe it'll be a little different when it's dragon monks from the sky that come down to keep the peace.
It's a very different kind of peacekeeping.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, any other thoughts about that? Like I said, there's lots of changes to the world happening, so other things that your characters, like you just mentioned, the Platinum Sky might react to the war in a specific way. Would any of the other characters react to, or their organizations react to wars and the advances of technology in any particular way?
I mean, Onva's Church would be absolutely playing both sides of the war. Just because of how split they are in protect versus attack.
Of course.
Gorfine's orders would probably play abstain, because like division within the people above is strength below. So,
right, so they just
be like, well, I mean, like, it means the strength below is even more of a danger to a divided world.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
But so yeah. they would stay out of it and just defend both sides regardless, and just continue the operations of mining and such. Oh,
boy, I'm close.
You boy threw a microphone at the ground.
Right.
Aggressive mic drop.
Sorry.
Mic spike.
The Wolfsbane family would probably work. Would simply defend the Vespertine. But they would not shy away from exploiting the war for their own personal or the city's benefit.
It's a good thought that just brought up in general. Would Vespertine try to advance to a nation, or would they try to stay a city apart from other nations as their own thing? What's their
I would like to see it be like it's like a nation of like mountain people, like mountain livers. It would be great, like what I would see is like them settling like basically throughout the mountain range, but Vespertine itself being like the main area, and then there being little towns like down the entire mountain range of whatever size that you give it.
Okay.
So feudalism.
Sounds good.
Isn't that basically how mafia families work? They each have a territory they control.
Yeah.
That is how mafia
exactly.
works.
We can't have too big of a country, or else we can't control it.
The government might get in charge.
They're like, we're just criminals, not government. We're not that crooked.
Exactly. It could be much worse.
The Silent Voice will document both sides of the war and bring news to the further, more obscure places that might not be so readily informed. The They'll remain a neutral force, though. Surprise.
Alrighty.
Unless one side's burning books. It's an important qualifier.
That's fair.
Are there going to be V-powered anti-aircraft guns to protect people from the United Nations?
Definitely V-powered guns. It's not. There's not many aircraft yet, though.
Yeah, but there are
Maybe
flying
in the future.
monks.
There are flying monks. It's a good.
All
point.
right, there aren't aircraft, but there are dragons.
There are dragons. You can assume also all manner of guns then, yes.
The blades will be fairly not present for a lot of this because, especially for at what point they developed, they're very much on the front lines, but on the lookout for people in that area who are, showing signs of maybe using that power for subjugation and and greed and corruption. They will act accordingly, but otherwise, a lot of their power is just used as basically for monster hunting as people expand throughout the surface.
All right. Do we think that the Blades and the Wolfsbane would be opposed? If they're essentially the world's first big mafia family. Could be an interesting rivalry of opposing sort of assassin clans.
The Blades aren't like fucking cops though. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's really more like.
So it's basically
I
as
feel
long
like
as
it
the
would be
Wolfbane aren't human trafficking, you're fine.
Yeah, much more vigilante shit. Yeah, like
Okay.
if they're doing their whole crime thing, it's like whatever.
Hey, listen.
But
We're organized crime. We're not fucking douchebags, all right? We're not doing human trafficking.
Douchebag in a technical mafia sense.
Yeah, the Blades would work with the Wolfsbane if there was a worse person out there that
Okay.
they
I feel
objected
like
to.
So
I
neutral.
feel like maybe the Blades and the Wolfsbane would have that frenemy relationship where they smile at each other oh yeah, thank you for doing this mission with me. Is that rust I see on your blade? And they're gonna be like, well, I haven't had that many dents in my armor as you have. They're just gonna be snide remarking me.
Wow, you must be very
You
brave.
can just wear anything. Yeah.
Well, you'll just wear anything.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Okay.
Oh my god, did you put on weight? Oh no, you're trying to diet? Oh. Oh.
The Blades are cat.
So in this world, the petty bitches are assassins.
Yeah.
Hell
Assassins and vigilantes being petty versus each other. Yeah.
Eileen did not pick those like herself. Very different.
I love it.
Someone would knock on.
They chant.
Someone would knock on Deirdre's tower to tell him about the wars and be like, I don't care, go away.
Do you think this is going to affect me?
I spit on your war.
Oh no.
Because your voice.
I love.
Oh no.
Oh no. Any other
Oh no.
any other interesting relationships between the organizations going forward that you guys can think of? I feel like a big one would be, if you could even call it an organization, Labarna's Church of Consumption.
You mean the Abominations?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like.
And the Abomination Killer?
I feel like there might be some tension there.
What's tension?
It's when you're really, really hungry for a long time and don't have the opportunity to nibble on anybody.
Or a god.
Wait, hold up.
Almost spit out my drink.
My god. I guess it would be interesting. I wonder if there would be any times where before our next one shot / the actual campaign, where the Wolfsbane family interacted with them. Like, are they in hiding? Like, are they out in the open? Are they just like flaunting that they eat people? Like,
I imagine it varies based on the individual.
Probably.
True, probably.
That's
be
part
fair-
of that dark side of the psyche, also mentioned.
I would imagine that Ruok's organization would probably act and help out the Platinum Sky as like a kind of like as they are like a neutral party to try and help get information, accurate information.
Yeah, that'd probably be a collab that comes up from time to time.
Yep.
Although you probably, the majority, aside from like a top monk, probably would just know that like bards and druids are good people to talk to. They probably wouldn't know about the organization.
True.
It's extremely secret.
The Wolfsbane family would probably frown upon people being eaten in their city, and would crack down on any suspicious behavior if they could.
Well, they would prefer
Listen,
it
I'll
to be
stab
consensual
anyone.
whenever possible.
For it to be
would like it.
consensual. All right, nice.
At least 20% of their cannibalism is consensual.
Consent is key.
At least 20%.
At least
I like how
20%.
it's
First
20%.
rule
Well,
of cannibalism.
You kind of have to like part of the whole thing of joining the group is saying, oh yeah, I totally donate my body to culinary arts.
No, you can't call that
all
art.
right.
You can't call that art.
Culinary
Take it back. Take it back.
They have
Look,
tried to get some contracts to clean up after battlefields. It just saves everybody a lot of time and
Oh my
effort.
god.
Oh my god.
Oh,
We'll be coming around. Like,
You know, those are the ones that, you know, they're trying a little too hard because they don't have much in the way of fancy gifts.
Listen, Eric. I will stab anybody. But draw the line at cannibalism.
That wasn't Eric.
I believe you.
Oh,
No, that was me.
that was Eric.
Oh, was it?
Eric posted
Yeah.
in
In Discord.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, silently sometimes.
Corfine would probably just smack anyone upside the head if they were talking about the evil within. The fuck are you talking about?
Bonk.
It's mostly the
The
very edgy
video
kids they
game.
talk about.
Just smack him. Get back to work.
I feel like the attack portion of the church would run into Gorfine's group from time to time and help out with an expedition.
Hey.
Yeah, I gotta go build an attack cleric of the Church of Anva real quick.
Storm cleric. Let's go.
No, judgment cleric.
I don't know that one.
You said
Did-
attack cleric. That's with 2 C's. That's
Mhm.
Correct,
a new
yes.
domain.
Yeah.
Yes, attack cleric.
The way I
Nick
One
attack
season.
cleric.
the way I'd imagined it was that like the attack portion was more paladin and martial based, and the protect version was more cleric and magic based.
But what if?
Not exclusively, but just
Yeah.
So now we have to find
Unless-
in our next party
Unless.
there has to be a protecty paladin and an attacky cleric.
All right.
Yeah, but it's hard to do that with paladins since they have so few spell slots.
It'll happen.
Just take Sentinel, you're fine.
Designers make it
There was
work.
the will.
Hmm.
2 levels of paladin, 18 levels of cavalier fighter. Infinite sentinel reactions.
Oh my goodness.
And an action surge.
Yes.
I used to be a paladin like you until I took an adventuring.
Until protect.
So is the next time we meet up for this world going to be a campaign, or is it going to
So-
be more one shot.
I have a little more planned. I want to start to accelerate the pace of progressing through the ages. It was very important to get through a little bit more in the Dark Age because I wanted to cover you guys at least meeting one deity, Mara. I wanted to cover you guys meeting and forming as a group early on and encountering, just setting the tone of how dangerous the world was with a settlement just being destroyed. And then eventually conquering the danger above, moving to the surface, all that. And then also trying to hit all the notes of your character backstories as well as I could, like Gorfiend punching a really big demon back to the abyss, Anva conquering her Neothalid, etc. Things like that. So that's what I wanted to get through in the Dark Age, and now it's going to be a little bit faster now. I'm thinking probably just 1 or 2 one-shots in this age, and then depending on how this goes, the next stage after that might be the fully fleshed out campaign world, or which obviously will take me a lot more time to finish writing, but that will happen after the current big campaign.
So what do I do to plan my next character?
Yes, I'll get to that eventually. I don't have things set up fully now, but I will say as a sneak peek, I am currently setting up all of the classes in Foundry directly, so we won't need to use D&D Beyond, including a bunch of my homebrew tweaks. That'll include a bunch of homebrew classes, like various Kibbles classes, for example, or other things I've found that I think are cool.
Asking for a friend, is garlic bread cleric allowed?
Probably not, no. Unfortunately.
I want to turn my enemies into garlic bread.
Can Labarda's children have garlic bread cleric as their...
We can work off it.
No, that is the most tempting I've heard so far. The garlic cannibalism cleric.
They
call it garlic bread, but it's people.
But it's people, yeah.
They spread the rumor that garlic makes you disgusting to cannibals, but they really just want you to be well seasoned and to mark yourself as someone who is going to,
That's how they make your bones taste like garlic. Make bread with it.
Perfect.
Food coma. Channel divinity. Food coma.
I'll also by that point have finished my new character creation rules. It'll be very different. I've talked about those a bit in the homebrew channel, but in essence it'll be like no more racial stat bonuses. I'll be tweaking races in general, and then a heightened point buy. So like even more points to work with the point buy, so that you can essentially just make whatever you want instead of all of this confusing. Oh, you can get your stats from here, and then you can also alter your stats from here. But these races get 4 stats, and those only get 3. And that's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Damn, look at you just improving the game across
What do you
the board.
mean?
I'm trying.
Racial bonuses.
Instead, you just
what
put your
about
bonuses
my
in one
lucky
place.
feet?
No, that's not so.
Everyone just gets flat bonuses. It's
No,
not taking away bonuses.
No racial stat bonuses. The races will have unique abilities still, and I've got a system planned for that too.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck? Then like it doesn't matter. Everybody just play a human.
Yeah, I'm gonna be changing.
Listen, even if it didn't matter, I would still never play a human.
What's wrong with playing a human?
I'm already a human. I don't want to be a boring human.
Yes.
Then make an interesting human, you heathen.
There's no such thing.
Make
Not in a
human
fantasy
with no,
world.
like
Kieran is not an interesting human.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the important distinction. Kieran's a boring human. We need an interesting one.
No, I wasn't saying that.
Can't believe Charlie killed me. No.
Yeah. I'll be rebalancing races in general, and I'll be taking a look at that eventually, because once you take stat bonuses out of the picture, other things need to be tweaked so that it's even. Because I mean, if you can't take something like variant human and they get no other bonuses, then like what's the point?
Jordan, I have a 2-parter question.
Indeed.
How much have V weapons developed, and how do you feel about the phrase gun lance?
I feel very good about the phrase gun lance.
Just say gun lance.
Okay, just checking.
Ooh.
And V weapons have developed quite a lot, yes.
So what about switch axe?
So I could
God, if
potentially.
you guys make the next era Monster Hunter only.
We've been playing too much Rise.
Yes.
Yo.
There is
In-game
no such
RP.
thing as too much rise.
In this world, we now have finally unlocked the secrets of arcane magic, and you can create a level 20 wizard, but everybody becomes level 20 fighters with switch axes and gun lances. So.
Oh my god.
Fuck that shit. Level 20 wizard.
All right,
I'm
see,
hucking fireballs.
I'll do a level 18 wizard, level 2 fighter, and it's 18 levels of blade singer. So I get to axe and surge and cantrip twice and make 4 attacks.
There you go. So I'm thinking things like, I mean, I was already thinking of things like, oh, it's a chainsaw blade, or sure, gun blades, things like that would be in. Gauntlets that explode on impact, things like that. So I don't think gun lance would be out of the question in that sort of technology. Also, there are definitely motorbikes.
Oh fuck yeah. Wait.
How far in the future are we going?
Not super far, but V is just a very potent fuel is discovered, so it kind of accelerates the mechanical element of technology quite quickly.
I think for the main campaign, I want to try out Artificer, because I've never done an Artificer before.
Are you telling me I can make a Batman-themed Judgment Cleric with a shotgun chainsaw sword who's also a biker?
Yes. That would be possible in the next
Middle
stage.
Ages.
Let me just write something down real quick.
Oh man. Yeah, I would go against my fucking magic user archetype just to play a really badass biker. That'd be fun though.
I also will probably be including some kind of fighting style to go along with the Blade's chosen fighting style of a one-handed gun and a one-handed weapon. Because we're gonna make that canon.
Canon Bloodborne.
Yes, just Bloodborne is just canon in this world, apparently.
Can we just rework 2-weapon fighting so it's actually good?
Maybe, probably not. That might be a bit above my capabilities, but
Can we have some cool ranger subclasses?
I definitely have some ideas for ranger. Like I said, I've made a bunch of changes to classes in general. For
Can
example,
all rangers have an animal companion?
I don't know. I'll get to ranger eventually, but maybe.
Damn it!
But as an
Rangers
example,
cast Wish at level 1.
yes.
Oh, that's balanced.
When
Fair.
you wish upon a star.
As an example, I've moved stuff like charisma weapon attacks on Hexblade is no longer Hexblade thing. That's a Pact of the Blade thing because that just makes more sense. Things like that. Giving Hexblades other bonuses instead. To make them more hexy, like little tweaks like that. I've completely reworked Sorcerer, as I've spoken about before.
Excuse me.
I also, as a thing for the full campaign that might not make it into the next one-shots, I have plans to rewrite how backgrounds work. I was inspired by Grim Hollow's advanced backgrounds. Those are very cool. Where essentially you have a background that has a little more effect on your character sheet, and you can level that background up by doing things in character. Like if you become a higher rank in the military, you get new things, for example.
Oh, that's cool.
I
Or
think
if
that's way
you,
cooler than just I was a smuggler, so I know how to pilot ships real good. It's,
You're like, no, you gotta smuggle shit to do it better.
yeah, like
You would
joining.
not believe how much I've smuggled.
Yeah, backgrounds tailored to the actual world we're playing and things like that. I think will be a lot cooler. So.
Is it tied to your downtime too?
Yes, there will be downtime systems.
Nice.
I'm still working through that a lot because there's a few different systems I like the ideas of, and I kind of want to marry them all together. So we'll see how things work out there.
I think so.
Fair.
That stuff like the backgrounds downtime probably won't make it until the full campaign, but yeah, this is barely going to be 5e by the time we get to the campaign. I'll say that.
5e.
It's going to be 5e Jordan edition.
Yeah. Man, D&D Beyond didn't hire you and you're just like, fuck everything.
Oh, did they not hire you?
Nah, it's fine. I shoot my shot. That's fine.
They just put me $5,000.
Yeah. Anyways, that's an overview of this age of Aseira and kind of a nice little send-off for it. I wanted to have as we move on.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Also, you
Thank
say
all of you.
level one. You say level one character getting wish as a joke, but I would love to watch someone get an unlucky D20 roll and take like 70 plus necrotic damage level one and just turn into a pile of sludge.
Yep.
It's like, ah, shit. Guess Tim tried it.
He tried it. He's A, never able to cast Wish again, even if he does get resurrected somehow, and B, he's dead now. Yeah.
Someone else was in the party is like, oh, I can use my wish to cast True Resurrection.
Guys,
Chance,
to
yeah.
rolling bad.
This could only go well.
Indeed. Well, eventually, it's going to be a bit of a break here between these kind of cluster of one-shots in the next, because I've got a lot of preparation to do for the next age, but I'll be happy to have a bunch of you along for more stuff in the future.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This
my
was fun.
favorite series of one shots I've been in.
Oh, thank
This
you.
was very fun.
Yeah, I'm sad I missed the first one, but it was lit.
I might try and do like we did for One Shot 2 going forward, where I do like more, like a higher quantity of smaller groups or something, because I feel like that's been smoother. But that's also something I'm considering for the future campaign. Even is trying to split into multiple smaller groups.
Yeah, are you gonna
like
cap
that.
the size or split the groups? And also, I want to be with the cool people. I want to be in the cool group.
I know it's
Yeah,
hard.
I want to
All
be in the
fast
cool
pages.
group too, but that might be definitionally difficult.
Eric, we're gonna be in the cool group together.
All the groups of the cool groups. All right.
We'll call it the cool group.
The group
yeah.
that does the best to avoid the Church of Consumption will be the cool.
But yeah, that'll be stuff that we figure out more as we go here.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh,
I will be
man.
awaiting instructions on how to build a new character sheet.
yeah,
Yes,
that'll
I'm
come out
waiting
eventually.
my next biker character.
that'll be
Also-
eventually, and it'll all be on Foundry. D&D Beyond's a great tool, but I want to use so much homebrew at this point that it's just not feasible. But, yeah.
Exciting.
This is a very spicy question that I don't know if would ever make sense, but assuming that this would be happening like concurrent to Divergence,
It would not. I mean,
No,
the
it
one
would not.
shots, more one shots would be, but the main campaign would end up happening after Divergence. there.
good,
So
good.
we've
We have
probably
to
got
beat
another.
that first.
Yeah, we've probably got another like year on Divergence. I'd say, possibly longer. So there's plenty of time until then. And
That's a lot of divergence.
yep, well, I am planning to take it to 20, and then
my
perhaps a
psychologist
little bit
said.
beyond there. So I mean, you'll cap at 20, but you know we'll have some adventuring at 20, so you don't just get to 20 and end there. So that'll take some time, and that'll give me plenty of time to flesh out the homebrew world, and you know have more one shots along the way, things like that. So
Super.
yeah,
I'm excited.
me too.
You guys are amazing. I love
No,
playing
you.
with you guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy playing with
Same.
you.
It's been
Dude,
really
a
fun.
ship got stuck. Why should I care about a ship? It was going straight and then it wasn't. Okay, that sounds fun. Show me.
Did you guys see the Among Us thing?
Yes.
What am I gonna
Anyways, a little bit of a short session. I'm gonna call it there then, I guess.
Okay.
Since we're still live.
Oh, are we?
Yes,
Oh,
We were?
we have been.
What?
I never
just
called
the
it,
last
so
second before we go live or go not live. It was amazing to hear just that like cavalcade of history happening. That was so cool to listen to.
That was dope.